Making physics animations with Moho is quite simple. You just have to create some vector shapes and put them in a group with physics enabled. When some objects are immovable, like my yellow ramp here, you can easily create an animation like the one shown on screen. But what if you wanted to create something more complex, like an object hanging from a rope? For that, we need to use a bone layer along with the physics group. I'm going to set up my layers first. I'm going to create a rope. I'll give it 4 segments. I'll have a vector for the ceiling and another for the ball. I'm gonna group all these layers and switch the group to a bone layer and group once more to add the physics. Now let's draw the ceiling. A simple rectangle is fine. Then let's draw the rope. I'll use an oval to represent each segment. I've put each section of the rope in a different layer. The ball is just a perfect circle, also in its own layer. Now let's add the bones. After selecting the bone layer, I click A on the keyboard to select the Add Bone tool. I add a bone for the ceiling, one for each rope segment, and one for the ball. Let's enable the physics now. Don't forget to make the ceiling immovable. Since we added the bones, we can move the pendulum in frame 0. If we run the animation now, nothing will happen. But you can see that keyframes are being added to the timeline. The problem here is we drew the pendulum in a position where physics won't move the object further. So we need to move the ball to the right a bit for it to start oscillating. Problem is, we can't move physics objects directly. We probably don't want to redraw and rebind the shapes and bones in a different position every time we want to try out a different animation. So what we can do is enable the physics only after some time has passed. Let's first disable the physics on frame 0. Then get on second 2, for example, and re-enable the physics once again. You can see now that the timeline is showing a green line to show when the physics will be enabled. I want to show you that it's even possible to disable the physics mid-animation, so I'll disable the physics on second 8. Alright. Before moving the pendulum, I recommend lowering the bone strength a bit. Otherwise, the bleed strength between bones will make the animation look weird. I'll get on frame 1 by pressing down Alt while scrolling down on my mouse wheel once. I press Z to select the Manipulate Bones tool, and I skew the pendulum to the right. Now if I run the animation, the pendulum moves as we would expect. And it even stops moving once the physics are disabled. Before leaving, let's point out some important things. For your vector layers inside a bone layer to show the physics tab in the layer settings, you need to bind them to a bone first. I'll unbind the ball from its bone. As you can see, the physics tab is gone. When I bind it again, the physics tab is back. If you hide the ceiling, the pendulum will simply fall. For Moho, hiding the ceiling is making it non-existent. If you need the ceiling to not show, you must remove the shape's fill and stroke instead. As you can see, the animation can still work when you do this. Finally, note that you can't animate with the non-moving object checkbox. This means you can't use this to make the ceiling and pendulum drop all of a sudden. If I try this, I do get a keyframe, but the animation plays out the same. Thank you very much for checking out this tutorial. If you found it helpful, remember to like the video and subscribe to the channel. If you would like to support me directly, you can do so using the links in the video description.